Hey, Kinetic Cutter Club subscribers, Lady Steam here. We're ready, can you believe it, for Project 13. And as I'm recording this, we're moving into the holidays. So the project we've included here is a geared Christmas tree ornament. In our video section today, we're going to learn a little bit about rescaling gears. These are square ones, but we're going to learn about how to make these square gears bigger or smaller. We're also going to learn about how you can reuse this as a gift tag if you wanted it to be a gift tag on a box, or anything else you might want to do with it. So come along, won't you, on our little adventure in CorelDRAW today. Let's take a look at the drawings that we provided in this project, as long as some additional hints you might want for using CorelDRAW to edit the drawing you've got. As always, we're going to provide these to you in CorelDRAW format. That's the CDR in inch and millimeter. We're also giving it to you in DXF in inch and millimeter format, in SVG in inch and millimeter format, and finally in PDF. Now I already have the CorelDRAW inch format drawing up here, and as you open it, you'll notice that you've got it in a set that's 4 inches by 3 inches is what the drawing itself is. You'll need 2 3/8 inch screws and 2 nuts to anchor the gears in place. And you may also want a ribbon or some other hanging device if you're going to hang this on a tree or other item. So you keep that in mind as you build it. As always, I'm going to start here by getting rid of my pieces. If you're validating the size, I can click on this box and you'll notice that it's 4 inches by 3 inches, so I can get rid of the box and the text. And now I can move my tree down into a place I can start to work with it some. Now these are what we call 4th order elliptical gears, and we've made the interior stars just to make them pretty, and when you decorate them you can do all kinds of cool things with them by decorating them that way. I'll show you how they mesh together in a minute, but essentially these points go into the middle of the sides as you mesh elliptical gears. Now let me ungroup that for a minute, and you'll notice that my center gear hole is set to 0.112. That's the right size for a gear on our number 4 screws. And if I click on this screw hole here on the tree itself, you'll see that that's set to 0.1. That means it's small enough you'll actually have to use a screwdriver to drive the screw in. When we're using elliptical gears especially, I like making these screw holes a little smaller because that means my teeth line up perfectly. If you make them a little bigger than that, you sometimes run into trouble. So what kind of things are you going to want to do with this project to customize it? Well, it may be that all you want to do is cut it or remove the Steamy Tech logo from it and then cut it. But you have lots of other options, and I want to talk about a few of those other options as we look at our geared pieces and as we look at our project. So let me grab these all together again and make sure they're both grouped. And I used Control G to do that. And group the pieces all together. Now, if I were to put them on my backing like so, and center them ever so carefully, you can see how the gears are going to align on this tree. Now, first, you can make this tree any shape you want to. We've talked a lot already about various sources and various tools you can do to do that kind of drawing and change what shape you're using these gears with. I'm going to align these here briefly, and you can see how they line up together. Now, one thing you may want to use this for is you may want to use this for a gift tag, and if you're going to do that, you have a couple of options. One is to leave the front the way it is, and then create a second copy for the back. So if we do that, I'm going to get these out of my way again. I can create a copy of this, and I can flip it over back to front. So I'm going to use transform here, and I'm going to use a horizontal transform. Make sure copies is set to 0 or you'll end up with a duplicate. And I've now flipped it front to back. Now here's the thing you want to be careful of if you start switching drawings around and you want to etch on the back. What you'll do to etch on the back is what I just did, create a mirrored image of it. And then when you're ready to etch on the back, you can cut this shape out, or even cut this shape out with an extra space around it so that you can more easily get your finger in to remove it or add it from the piece. And then you can just drop in the front side. So maybe one of the things you want to do with this is you want to use it as a gift tag, and you've got the entire back to do anything you want to with it. So I'm going to take this, and I'm again going to write to Greg from Santa. Now that's way too big to etch right now, so instead of doing that, I'm going to go highlight all the text. I'm going to switch it back to this Cambab font we've used before. It's one we like a lot. I'm going to change it to be hairline only and no fill. You can certainly use Arial. If you're going to use Arial, then again you want to use hairline and no fill so that it's able to etch and draw correctly. And I'm going to go reduce the font size some on this. And now when I do this, you'll notice that I have my lovely little package here to Greg from Santa, all ready to go. And make sure if you're going to do that, that you're around the holes so that you're not going to have the nut go over it from the back. So now I've done that. That's one thing you can do. You can use these as a gift tag. The other thing you can do with these if you want to is you can resize the object. So I'm going to take both of these and make a copy of them over here. And I'm going to make a big one of this. So I'm going to double the size. I'm just going to tell this to be 200. And now I've doubled the size of all the pieces. You can certainly do that and rescale them. If you do that, make sure that you go into the pieces and you make your screw holes go back to the smaller size. I have to confess, I have done this once or twice. So I'm going to change this back to 0.1. And I'm going to go change this one back to 0.1. I'm going to do a Control G here to group that tree together that way. And I need to make these smaller as well. And again, I'm going to take these down to 0.112 when I do that. So you have lots of flexibility, lots of things you can do in terms of resizing the data to make these be whatever you might want them to happen to be when you're working with your drawings. And I'm actually going to cut one of these at this size for you so you can see what it looks like when we build it in the bigger size. These two gears are exactly the same, so I can just take the one I already did and duplicate it. And then I can save that out and cut it on my laser. Be careful when you're resizing gears, because you're going to resize the gear teeth. And if you wanted to make this too much smaller, the gear teeth would get teeny, teeny, tiny, and you might have trouble with actually getting them to mesh properly. So the one thing to keep in mind with resizing gears is you can only get so small before the gear teeth get unworkable when you're going to cut them, either on your laser or on your CNC machine. So now that you've done that, go ahead, save your project out however you want to save it. and cut your pieces, and then come back and you can watch the video and we can talk about how to actually assemble it. Now that you've cut all your pieces, let's look at how to put them together. As you saw originally, here's what we're building, is this cute little tag. I also cut one and assembled it at double the size as we looked at in the drawing, and you'll notice that that's spinning nicely. And I've got plenty of toothing there. So let's talk about how to assemble one of these. Now I made these holes 0.112 and the inner holes are 0.1, so to actually put the gear on, I'll need to use a screwdriver and I'll screw it through. The nice thing about that is it means you can test your tightness and do all of that before you actually put the nuts on the back. So we'll do that. And it's spinning quite lovely. And the way these two elliptical gears go together is I'm going to take the point of this one and put it right in the middle of that other side. So now that I've done that, I can slide that down and I can spin those two gears nicely and adjust and tighten the tightness however I want to make them work perfectly. And then once I'm ready, I can flip them over and I can put the little bit of glue on the backs of the screws and I can put my nuts on. And since I've left the space on the top of these, I can actually tighten these down and I've still got lots of room to spin. And then you're just ready to tie a ribbon on it and you've got a beautiful holiday ornament.